So everything you were able to do, well, pretty much everything you do in Classic, you should be able to do in Next. Okay. But the navigation and the look and feel will be different. But I think you guys will find more. You'll find that. So what you do is when you get logged in, anywhere else you now to log in, you can continue to use that same URL to log into ClientSpace Classic, and then once you're in, just take everything out on your URL, leave it, ClientSpace.net, and the / there, and just type in the word next. Okay, and this will basically reroute you to the new interface. Okay, that has different functionality. Same functionality, just a different methodology.
Will our login and password work on that one as well?
Yes, the same database, so nothing has changed in that fashion. You're going to find a lot of similarities. The other thing you can do is just, you can go directly into Next by using this web address that you see up here and use the login.
No way. Is that on here? Because we can't.
It's not. I actually created this prior to this training.
They just read it off.
We just made it this morning, so
yeah.
I'll read it off.
Yes, HTTPS : REI.clientspace.net and then a / next. The only thing that's different is the next, the / next at the end. All right. And if you're in Next and you find yourself stuck or just kind of jump to it for that moment, which I occasionally have those moments, I got to flip back to Classic for certain things. So just take the Next off of it and press Enter, and you'll go back to the Classic version. That toggling back and forth is only going to work in Internet Explorer, because remember, Classic is only compatible with Internet Explorer. But if you want to use Next, you don't have to be limited to Internet Explorer. You can use Safari, Firefox, Chrome, all work with ClientSpace Next as well. And you don't have to worry about any special computer settings, browser settings, compatibility issues, ActiveX, all that goes away with ClientSpace Next.
Can we get this to a client yet, or is this just
yes.
our?
Yeah, we're gonna. I think the plan is to roll them out on Next and not really bother with the Classic version. So what I'm going to do today with my training is just use it in Next so you guys can be exposed to how it works and it's, how it works in Build. Okay. So so first thing you want, and Amber, you can kind of lead the discussion as well with certain questions and whatnot. So I thought I would just kind of start with how do you search for cases in ClientSpace Next? Where do you go to find cases and find tasks?
Amber.
One of these, say that. Excuse me for
One other thing, can we have the line shut?
Sure.
So I can. Anyone else need a hand up? Jay.
All right, so just like in Classic, you have the little plug icon, or you can go to your profile and add module, and you have the cases and tasks module. Well, ClientSpace Next comes with its own set of modules, and it has cases and tasks as well. For the sake of time, I'm not going to worry about adding all of these. Amber can show you later on, but to add modules, you just go to your login ID, My Profile, and then over here on the right side, this is what we call our Action Center. This is where your modules will be, and you can select your modules. So when you log in ClientSpace Next for the first time, you're going to see all this information in here, all the modules you have access to. So you're going to recognize them. They're very similar to Classic. Just add them, look at them, and kind of go explore from there. But we're going to focus on cases, and the other one was tasks for today's session. So you double-click to add them, you can rearrange them, and then when you're all done, make sure you save your profile. Okay? And then you'll need to refresh your page to see your changes at the top. Okay, so I've already added modules already. Okay. So and just like Classic, the first module you add will be the first module that appears when you log into ClientSpace Next. Same thing. This is your home interface. It's similar to what you're used to already if you're using the home interface. We do show, instead of showing the calendar now, where we decided to show follow-ups for CRM activities. They're a little bit more popular than the calendar, so we decided to put it in there in our base product. So then you get favorites, cases, your task manager, and your follow-up. Right, so we'll go to cases. This is the case search. This is the exact same thing as clicking on My Cases now. If you're using the My Cases dashboard, that's what this is. It's My Cases. It defaults to your name in here. These are called chicklets, okay? And you can, this is basically a search, it's a search parameter. So I'm filtering for cases assigned to me. If I want to find cases assigned to someone else, I just click on that. I can drop this down and pick another user. Amber, and we'll search, and then we get cases for Amber, okay? You can do more advanced searches by clicking on the More button, and you maybe want to filter by a certain company. This one passes. Make sure we get some results. So now I have two chicklets, the client and the assigned to. If you want to remove a search, if you want to have more options, we can we'll just click on the little X on the chicklet, and it performs, whenever you change a chicklet, it auto searches right behind it. You don't have to click search again to refresh the results. It just auto searches. So you're seeing you're going to get results for whatever your chicklets are. Sometimes you just want to do a quick search. You don't really care about doing a more advanced search in the more. So the quick search interface is up here. We've tried to design this so 80+% of the time, the quick search is going to work well enough to narrow your results down to find what you're looking for pretty quickly. Okay. So instead of having all these fields plastered all over your search interface, taking up the whole display, this has slimmed it down. The search interface, you get more results down here at the bottom. Okay. So if you hover over the little question mark icon, it's going to give you explicit information about what fields, if you type in this quick search, which fields ClientSpace is going to interrogate to find results for you. Okay. The quick search field, you may not be able to read it completely. For example, it says workspace starts with, deviating starts with, case number equals. So you're going to notice that when you type in there, it's going to look for things that begin with that, or contains, not contains, but equals are the main ones. Down at the bottom, you see percent search field. I can't move my mouse because it goes away. But down lower, it says percent search field contains, and it says subject, issue, case notes, and resolution. Those are all the longer text fields on case that's in there. So contains means the percent. You all know the percent sign that you can use today. Percent is just a shortcut or a wildcard for the word contains. So if I type in percent CA into a search, I'm going to get cases back that basically either the subject, the issue, the case notes, or the resolution contain the letter CA. In that order, but it doesn't have to begin with it, doesn't have to end with it. It's somewhere in one of those fields that downloads the CA sequence of characters. Okay? So it's kind of nice. I mean, most of the fields in Classic you can use that percent sign on, whether you realize it or not, but I think you're going to find good results. Especially, I use the percent search all the time because I know there's something that issue, something that subject, that keyword, and usually you can limit it. And sometimes you have to narrow it down to a client. So I'll do a percent search, like percent CA, and if you want to get the results to make sure I get answers back. And cast it again. So we'll do client CA, cast this on here. All right, so here we have a chiclet, passes health, and percent CA. So this is bringing back, well, they both all say CA in the workspace. It's basically bringing back, this is an AND condition, bringing back only for this client or this workspace, and the case, one of those fields contains the percent CA in it. So it's using AND logic there. So the chicklets have to be true in the evaluation plus whatever is in the quick search. Okay? You can blank that out, press the enter key, and it searches again. You got a reset and clear option, so you just kind of reset it back to its normal state, as though you just first went in, click reset, and clear will take the chicklets and clear out the quick search and just start fresh. Okay? I'm try. Zoom in a little bit more. There it is.
or not.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Does
quite-
that help
Mhm.
everybody?
doesn't render very nicely on everything, but you can see it better. You like that? Okay.
Probably still hard back there, but.
So, and what I'm showing you here on cases for searching, that concept of search is throughout the entire application. So it's not just cases. It will apply to tasks. It applies to employee searches, business rescues. Anything that you're using, it's the same functionality. The variable is going to be what's available for quick search. So pay attention to that, and you'll get used to learn to what that is. And then the more these options will be different depending what you're searching. Some of the other really nice features that come with this that can help make your life easier is you can rearrange columns. You can drag and drop your columns and rearrange them. You can change the width of the column. Okay? You can still click on the headers and sort back and forth. So those are different ways to help find what you're looking for. A lot of times I sort on case numbers, and I'm like, no, it's just a case I just created today. So you can search on the case number and find those recent cases quickly. So those are ways cases can help you using a dashboard in different alternative to find what maybe you're looking for. And some of the dashboard or these modules, the dashboard module, you can click on this little down arrow and go to columns, and some of them will have additional information that you can expose that may not be visible by default, or turning things off. You can uncheck certain ones as well. So those are different things you can do. None of those changes will save. If I close out of that work item, these are your work items over here. If I close out of this and I come back to it, I lose those changes, that little setting that I just did. Okay. In a future release, our plans are to make these sticky, so you can save your personalization and possibly click a button up here and toggle between new cases, in progress cases. Can quickly find what you're looking for. But those are not available today. But we got the backbone infrastructure to do that type of stuff now to grow. Okay. I think any quick questions on navigation? Oh, good question. By default, our system pretty much in all, I can't think of a scenario where we don't. We always default to active records. We're only showing ones that are active. And when I say active, that doesn't mean like example cases, closed cases, doesn't mean the same thing as active. I guess they do on cases, because when you close a case, we make that record inactive too. So it doesn't show up naturally in your search results. So when I talk about a record being active or inactive, it's down here at the bottom on your data forms, you have the active checkbox. So we have a rule in our system, so if you complete a case, we uncheck that active box. So it's kind of archiving it. It's a soft delete. We're not deleting anything, it's just not by default in your search results. Okay, it's still there. So if you need to find those inactive records, we've improved ClientSpace. You have 3 options. Click on the more. You have active, archived, and all. So in Classic, you only had active and all. Those are usually the only options you have. Well, now you have a 3rd option to show just archived records. If you go that route, then I'm only showing cases that are archived. Okay. Now it could get confusing. I'm sorry, you have lunch here. Now it could get confusing because you might do a status search of completed, and you're not getting any results. And the reason why is because they're also inactive, they're archived. So you're going to have to change your results to show the archived records, even though you've chosen completed as a status.
Can we turn that off? Is there any way to?
There is a business rule that I think could be turned off so they don't get auto-archived. I don't know if there's other things mixed in with it.
If we do that, it's going to show up everywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to show up in your
You're going to get overwhelmed with
page,
too many
it's going to show
results.
up in all your results. I don't think that's necessarily something you guys are going to want to do because it's going to muck up your dashboard and your.
You're going to get it's too much noise in your searches then.
Are the is the security of the user drive what tickets they can see? In other words, I would like to be able to see the 3 people that are on my team, but it seems like I can only see my stuff. Is that just a security setting, or?
If you have access to the workspace, you should be able to have access to the cases.
Like if I need to help them with something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a specific instance where you're not getting access to something, let Amber know so we can dig into that specific issue and see what's causing that. But if you're an internal user, when I say internal, I mean you're an REI employee. An external user would be your client users, okay? So if you're an internal user and you can get into that workspace, you should be able to see that case. Unless that case has been marked as a secured case type, and an administrator can only do that. So, and that's when the case is created, we go in and do record level security. You basically have to be a notified user or be assigned to, or the created person who created the case would be able to access those secure cases, and the escalation users as well. Whoever might be in escalation 1 or 2.
And the majority of you can see almost all cases, and Connie, you can too. So it's not going to show on your dashboard. Only your cases that you have that you need to work are on your dashboard. You would have to do a search, and you can do a search and filter by assigned to or by department to be able to pull your own department. So for the managers, if you want to search for your department to see what cases your department has, you can do it that way.
Right. So I got a note when I get back to the office to research what I can do for the quick search to add the owner to this list. So you guys can quickly, you may not be assigned to the case, but you're the owner of the case. And you may want to see the cases that I'm an owner of. So I'm gonna research how to get that in there. So it's another field you can quickly search on. Show me all the cases I own. All right. All right. So what does it look like? Well, let me back up. We're going to go into the data form and look at it because it does have a different look to it. We've tried to make the first column of any of the dashboards or search interfaces. If you click, make it a hyperlink, and if you click on it, it's going to open whatever it is that you're on searching. So in this case, it would open the case. Okay. If I was on the client dashboard, which is equivalent to the client master search or the client lookup, we're showing the client number, so it would open the client master record. Okay. And notice as I go through and I click on these different modules, your work items keep expanding over here. So you no longer are limited to having only one search interface open at a time or having multiple windows or installations running it together to do what you need to do to multitask. You can be in one interface with many different search interfaces going at once. Okay?
So if you have a case open or a task open in the subscreen, you can now navigate around, whereas you couldn't before?
Yeah, so if you're in a workspace working with a client on a case and you get a phone call, you no longer have to close that case. You can simply just go back to workspace search and you can open up another workspace, do what you need to do, and you can go into many different ones. So you can have a lot of things going. With that, though, you need to have some responsibility because the system, other people are working in it. So if you have a case or a record open that's unsaved and someone else goes in behind you and makes a change and saves it, whatever you had in that case or whatever you're working on is lost. You're going to have to close it out and come back in to refresh it and start over with it. So I do recommend saving your work before you start opening up more work items if you're concerned with maybe losing something in it. Okay? But you'll notice that there's, you can have a lot of different things open. So I probably wouldn't have workspace search open twice. Let me close this out. I'd probably go back to my existing work item. You don't need to click on it again because it's already open. And you notice under workspace search, I have 2 different workspaces open now. So it's a lot more friendly and usable that way to be able to multitask and have different things open. All right. This is not exactly cases, but I think it's good stuff for next. All right, so the other links, just kind of pay attention to what they are. This is the workspace column, so if I click on this link, it's going to open the workspace. Okay, let's go into the case and just look at one. I want to see if I can find. Get rid of archives. There's a issue with Internet Explorer. It only happens in Internet Explorer. The focus of your cursor doesn't always, you click on a field and the cursor doesn't appear. It's a glitch in IE. I'm sure they'll get a resolution to it. It's something weird. Just tab and shift tab, and your cursor will bounce back into where it needs to go. I don't see it on any other browser. It's only on the IE that it seems to be happening on. All right, so these are just some test cases I made for this easy Tim's Wolf photography or if you guys see a workspace that begins with ZZ, NetWise and Amber, somebody's testing, you can just ignore those cases and notifications. There's really no action. I try to go in and clean up behind them so it's not confusing everybody. All right, so here's the case. So you know what a case looks like in Client. This is what a case looks like in Next. And what you're going to find here is very similar. We try to standardize the look and feel. So for example, if you go into an organization, you've got tabs across the top and links over here, and attachments are a tab, but you go into the client service case and your attachments are in a paperclip, not a tab. So a lot of those things have been eliminated with Next. So we have a standard, everything's been standardized on look and feel. So you'll see some changes like that. You're going to have, this is your header up here at the top. This is where you're going to have information about your case. Some of your headers are expandable, and if they are, you'll see the little down arrow right here. If you click on it, you're going to get more information. Okay. A lot of the information in here, just kind of watch your mouse. It changes. It could be a hyperlink. It could open something. You can drill in and do something more. Okay. These are not configurable. These are set with the application. Maybe in the future there could be options to customize them. But right now they're just set. But you'll notice the layout of your case is identical to the layout that you're used to today. It didn't change. Your field orders are still the same. It's still 2 columns. Some of the icons used to be, like this. If I want information about Anna, you're in here. Hi. Oh, right there. So I just pick names sometimes. So instead of clicking the icon on the right side, some of them have moved to the left. Okay, but clicking on it is going to give you information. So this information is coming from your user profile, so it's important to have your phone and email and everything corrected in your user profile so your coworkers can get information about you to call you if they need to or contact you. Okay? So you'll see different changes like that. Now all the action links that were up in the link that were up at the top of the header, for example, there's sometimes report links over here on the left side, all your links that do actions that change your status and whatnot. We're over here on the right side. You're going to notice that all those links and things are in our action center now, here on the right. Okay. So the workflow links, send note, in process, need info, suggest solution, close. You guys recognize those? So that's going to be standard on any data form. Those links that are used to being in that area are going to be in this section. Okay. Bless you. And links can be pinned too. So if you find a link, sometimes there's more links, and all these are pinned. Sometimes there's additional links that are not on the screen when you first see them. And if that happens, you'll see a more button there. If you click more, it will expand and show you the rest of the links that are available. So we try to show just the common important links that you might want to get to. So it's 1 click away versus having to do 2 clicks to get to them. And that stuff's configurable. But you'll notice that's where the links are. There's other links, if you remembered on the case, the case research, client contacts, client snapshot. Those are the links that were kind of going centered across a little bit lower. You guys remember those? So those are called links. You'll find those in the link section. Okay, whereas the workflow links are in that other area. So that's where those are. I'm just using my mouse wheel to scroll up and down in that area. Okay. Your reports can be, you have a section for your report, and then down lower is where you have your task, attachments, subscribers, and activities. So this was the task icon that you used on your case. This was the paperclip. Subscribers, that was the little email icon where you could track like notifications. So anytime a change is made to a case, you're going to get a notice about it. So that's a subscription item. It's called subscribers. So you're subscribing to changes on that record. Is what you're doing if you're in that list. And then the activities, which are the CRM notes, tracking phone calls, adding email, make a follow-up, whatever you want to do there. Okay. Now some of these things are a work in progress. We're still evolving. We're getting feedback from clients as they're using this, making suggestions, and we're listening to those. And you're going to see little changes here and there, so that it will be improving more and more. So we can find a happy medium for everybody and how they want to use it. But the section's expand and collapse, so you can kind of see what you might want to look at. All right. Now your task, if you have tasks on a you have a case with a task on it, we can look at.
Search termination. Auto termination task. Is that a task?
You're going to notice if there's, yes, this is good. You're going to notice a number on these, so you'll know there's information. There's 14 tasks on this case. So if you click on it to expand it, you're going to get a listing of those tasks. Clicking on the little hyperlink here will open that task up. Okay. Notice my task no longer has tabs across the top. Everything's over here on the side. You got your notifications and your attachments, and then your workflow link to complete the task.
So if you hit the trash, is that going to take a notification off that person?
It will. So if you want to remove yourself or someone no longer needs to be in that notification, you just click the little trash can icon. I believe it throws a prompt to confirm. I don't want to do it, but yes, it will remove that person. So going forward, that person will no longer be updated when this task is changed. Okay? And because I'm on this, let me explain this. This might be new to you. I want you all to be aware that the owner and the assigned to, if you are ever in the life of this task, one of those two people, you will automatically be added to the notifications, and you will remain in notifications until you remove, until somebody removes you or you remove yourself. Okay? And you don't have, if you need to add additional people, just select users and go find those additional people, and they can be added to the notification list. You don't have to be an owner or assigned to be on the task notification. Do keep in mind that because you're on, if this task is related to a case, you see up here at the top it says related form, I can jump back to my case from the task. So if you go into the task and you need to see what that related case was, you click that button and it'll take you to the case. Notice my view over here. I got cases, tasks, and cases. I got my case open twice. If I go up to this case, it's grayed out. I can't change it right now because there's other records opened underneath it that I've drilled into. I can't even change my task. So in other words, I probably wouldn't want to do that. I probably would have just closed out of my task and went back to my case if I wanted to do that, because that's how I went in. But do keep in mind that task notification has nothing to do with case notification. They're two completely different things, and the only way they're related is because you may have related a case to a task. If you did that. But that may not be the case. You can have tasks all by themselves, you can have cases all by themselves, or you can have them linked together. So it's very, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. It's versatile. Okay? So don't think that you're subscribed on the case as a subscriber. You're not going to get notices when that case is changed unless you're on that case as a notified user on the notification. They're two completely independent things.
I want to make that really, really clear. If you add a task to a case, make sure if you want that person to see the case notes that you add them to the notify. Otherwise, they're just going to get the notes on that case. That makes sense.
That means they're not going to get the task.
Yes. So if you assign a task to them, they do not get notifications of notes that are put on the case unless you put them as a notified person on the case. Make sense?
As you guys get more used to ClientSpace, you're going to have to learn to trust your coworkers. I had to do that with when I working with NetWise. We use the same system. Okay, we have different fields, but we're using it too. And you have to learn to trust the system. In the beginning, you're all learning, so mistakes might happen. You're learning, so it's kind of hard. But you want to get to the point where you are comfortable knowing if there's something critical or there's something important that I need to see, ClientSpace is going to notify me at the appropriate time. So it's good to be responsible and be proactive and want to see everything that's going on, but there's also a point where I don't need to be involved at this time. Maybe I just need to trust the system's going to let me know what's appropriate for me to be involved. So it's just kind of getting used to it and trusting it. So my boss still does that to me every once in a while. I'll put something in and I'll go talk to him. He's like, did you read the case? And I'm like, I didn't look that one up. And he's like, use the system. So that you're going to get used. It happens every once in a while. You're going to. So there's a learning curve to it. You're going to have, as you adjust and learn it. To add a new task. So you just click the Add Task button, and you get a blank task form. I'm not going to go into how to create a task because it's the same field. You guys know how to create tasks. Okay. But if you add a task from the form, that task will automatically be associated with this form, which leads me to another scenario. I'm sure you guys have gone into a case or went to the client master, maybe looked for a task, you clicked on a task icon on one of the data forms, and you're doing that thinking you're going to get a task list for the entire workspace. It doesn't work that way, okay? You actually have to, there's different places you can go to find your task, okay? If I'm on a case and I want to look at my tasks for this case, I'm going to show them right here. But the task might be closed and I want to see my closed task, I'll have to click View Full Search. And by the way, we're going to move that to the top so you don't have to scroll all the way down. This is my task. Data form search now. Oh, yeah, it's just spelling. There. Okay. So, no, it's not. Like locked up or something. It's not refreshing. Let me not show my screen for a moment. All right, so I didn't show my screen. Let me see if I can share my screen again. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. All right. So this View Full Search right here, just very click on that. All right, so this is bringing up a list of all tasks. Notice that my associated data form is the client service case that I drilled in from. Okay, so you're not going to see all the tasks for this company in this view. You're only seeing tasks that were created from that case. Okay, so if you need to see all of them, you'd have to remove this checklist, and this is going to be a task search now. Filters for only this workspace, okay, but not necessarily that case. It could be other cases in here as well now. Does that make sense? Okay. You can also go to the task search up here at the top. This is the dashboard module. This is outside of a workspace. So if I use this task manager search, this is allowing me to see all tasks across all workspaces. It doesn't matter what form I'm on or what client or prospect it's related to. It's everything. The task manager is a global search for everything. Okay. So I guess what I want you to do is take away, if you're on a data form and you drill into the tasks from that data form, you're only going to see tasks related to that form. You're not going to see tasks related to other forms, even though it's the same client. Make sense? Okay. Hopefully that might help some of you find certain things that maybe you weren't finding before. All right. So we go through 25 minutes here.
The sheet, I created this sheet at a Classic, so some of the screenshots that Tim's alluding to as far as them being on the left, the right now instead of at the top. I'm going to have to replace those, but the fields on the cases are still organized the same and they still work the same. So you'll just, Tim, we'll go through a case and explain the fields. This will help clarify what a person in a particular field, what happens. So which fields do you put the client in so that they get notices, and which fields do you put them in so that they see that on their dashboard?
Okay. So let's if I add a case from the cases module up here, it's going to prompt me for a workspace. All right, because every case has to belong to a workspace. If I was in that workspace and I added the case, it won't prompt me for the workspace because it knows where I'm going to be at. Okay. So I'm just going to do it on this easy Tim's Wolf photography, and let's go. This will bring up your case search. It's just a blank slide. I'll come back to that. The category and case type, everybody understand how that works? Okay. The category is a high-level grouping of case types, so your case type list isn't so long. Okay. So we'll just log an accounting case, and we'll do other. Anna, you're the one again. I'm sure you've been getting these. All right. So I want you to know that clients to be assigned to is the person who has the ball, the person that's responsible at this time for this case. It's in their court. Okay. The This person will get notification when the case is updated. You don't have to put them in the subscriber list. They're already included. Okay, they won't be shown there, but they will be on normal case notification. Okay, your class, you guys know how to use classes, right? Either you want to have.
Yeah, these are the same classes we had in Request Center, and they're defined. The only thing I want to note is I had a question on this, the internal only. If you use the internal only class, that does not change viewing for anybody or restrict the clients from seeing it. It has nothing to do with any of that. It just classifies the case into a particular category, basically for us to be able to track what's going on. So we track requests, and we look at our services, our service issues, which as you all know we monitor, and then the internal only would just signify that it is an internal case so that we can pull those when we're doing metrics away from our client cases. So keep in mind when you're doing an internal only, make sure your users are still internal users as well. Keep it internal so the client can't see it.
But yeah, as Amber said, it doesn't control security at all. It's just a way to group or classify your case type. All right, the assigned to will fill in based off the case type, and administrator controls that. So if that ever is incorrect, you need to let. I think it was.
Marisa, Matt, and myself are the administrators.
Right.
So Cynthia is able to do case adjustments.
Okay. The status will default to assigned. Okay. Can you drop this down and pick other statuses? Yes. But I would recommend that you use the workflow links up here at the top instead, right, to change your statuses. Because those are configured to show what the next appropriate statuses could be, rather than picking from a longer list of statuses. Okay, they're kind of filtered based off of the current status. The notify user will always default to the current user. The current user is me because I'm logged onto my account. Okay, so you're automatically the notify user. If it needs to be somebody else, feel free to change it. The notify user will always get notified on the case, just like the assigned to will, and they don't need to be in the subscriber list. Okay, because they're going to get notifications anyway. If an external user was logging a case, their name will be here. That external user will be the notified user. And that's really important that you leave that alone, because that's how they're going to get notified when you add comments to the case. Not internal comments. The external users don't get notifications on internal comments, only on the communication log. Okay? So you'll see that's how the notify user is being worked. The priority, it's not really elaborating here very much, but you probably want to develop meanings for your priorities and follow those. Okay. However, for my clients, they use different prioritization and they mean different things. So whatever your system is there is just for priority. All right. The owner will default to the assigned to. The reason we made the owner field is because it was requested to be able to see who the original assigned to was, or the original person. Because the case may get it, Anna would naturally be in here because she's creating the case, or the case was created and assigned to her originally, but Anna may reassign the case to somebody else. And we want to see that it was originally Anna was the owner, even though it's currently assigned to somebody else. Okay? So that owner field will fill in when I do my first phase. Okay? The case number auto-filled for you is just a way to identify the case.
So the owner field we can never change?
I don't know if you should ever, I don't know.
You can change it. Owner is essentially, we don't have a next action here. So the assigned to is the person working the case. So this is kind of where we're not really trusting our coworkers because we're assigning it to, let's say I get a case and I get a call from a client and I'm working it and I have to respond to that client, but I need Anna to go find something for me. I can reassign the assigned to her, put in a note what she needs to do. She's going to do what she needs to do and assign it back to me. But if Anna decides she doesn't want to do anything for the next week, then I at least have a way as the owner where I can look at the cases that I own and know that they're not being left to die.
It's similar to the task, the methodology on a task. You have an assigned to and an owner there as well. Usually the owner, for most of my clients, I think it works well for you all, the owner is really the person who is ultimately responsible to make sure that that task or that case is getting done. You're ultimately responsible for it, even though the ball's not in your court right now. It's with the assigned to.
So if a client calls us and we are creating a case, does the owner become the client, or does that still?
No,
It's
the
always
owner is
internal.
internal. The owner is the person responsible for the case. So to equate it to request center, the assigned to is the owner. The assigned to shouldn't change because we don't want to be passing it around, just like we kind of passed around emails before we know it, 6 people have seen it and nobody's contacted the client. So whoever gets the information from the client first and is responsible for getting an answer back to that client and making sure that they're satisfied with the resolution should be the owner. The assigned to is the person that is actively working on the case, so that's sort of equivalent to your next action. And when you don't have a next action, your assigned to is your responsible party and the person working the case, which is where you have the assigned to and the owner being one and the same. So if you get a call from a client and you work the case in its entirety, you would be the owner and the assigned to. But if you get a call from a client and you are responsible for answering them, but you need me to look at a report and figure out why it's not working, then you would assign it to me. I would look at the report, respond back to you, and change you as the assigned to. But if I forget for some reason, you still have that owner, so you can monitor your tasks and requests that you're responsible for to make sure you get back to that client.
Okay. Now, what about our tasks that are coming from DP? Are the clients able to see that at all?
Clients cannot see tasks.
Clients cannot see tasks. Okay. Okay.
So our DP only put it in there?
No.
Do they see the cases that the DP tasks are associated with? Is there a case that goes with those DP tasks that you said?
Sometimes it does not.
Okay, all right. So we should probably look at that since the externals do see the task.
Yeah, on the cases it's fine, but if you have separate tasks, they're not, they don't. All they see, the only module they see when they log in is the case. They can't see a task. If you just create a task to remember that for legacy I need to go in and update their pseudo rates, then they're never going to see that. But if they're the notify on the case, then they can see the details of the case, including the task.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they,
So we don't want to set up tasks within a case that a client submitted because they'll be able to see that task.
well, I think they probably need access. I need to go look at that. Let me make a note.
We maybe turn that off. I mean,
Yeah, well, I think they're gonna.
I don't know. We haven't
You can think of a scenario when the client needs to see tasks.
So Amber, as long as it's set up as internal. You say my comment when he said the other thing, that you and I gave each other the same style. That's totally different. Still internal. So if it's on that communication log?
Communication log is available for, that's your mechanism, that's your field to communicate with your client.
That's your email.
The communication
Email
log.
channel.
Yes, that's supposed to replace your email dialogue.
No email. Use the
Yeah,
communication
this
log.
is like zero email. Support zero email.
Enough, yeah.
Sometimes you can attach that email into the case if you have to do it.
So like when DP sends me something and I send it back and then they send something back, I don't know where to go and put my second response.
Yeah. You just continue with the communication log. If there's
But I thought you said communication log is the client see it.
if VP is your client,
Oh no, they put the
client information.
company.
Yeah. Did they put client contacts on the
Yes,
client?
yes,
They do.
They do.
Okay, well, you need to stop them.
Every
Yeah,
time.
because
Every
they,
single time.
client contact names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For the cases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have an example so we can all look at it?
Look up any new hire.
Uh,
Look up any new hire.
I've been,
Okay.
that's why I don't know.
So I think it's just like, I've just been like, so Amber, to clarify, it's just the company that's
The
been
case.
brought into the case.
What's that under, what category?
Are they getting notifications? I'm sorry, what?
Is it the company that's driving the employee of the client contact, or is it the contact that's driving the client contact?
There's a drop-down list that will hold the contacts from the client from the workspace that you're in or the client that you're in.
Right.
You can also freehand type in contact.
Right, so my point is, if VP were just to give a ticket and it was just identifying the client, or the
Yeah.
workspace, then that's fine.
Yes.
It's the minute that they add a contact, that's when it triggers the contact.
Yeah, because
Like here for case details, I'm getting them when it has the client's name and information in there.
So the contact name, like the reported by or whatever, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't give access.
No, well,
Clients
let's
can do it.
finish going through
Yeah.
the contact field does not do notifications or viewing. It's your notified to and your created for.
The notifications go the assigned to and the notified user.
Right, so your notified user, if you want to talk to your client, then you want to put them in there via email, the email notifications, essentially. If it's from DP, then this should be a DP member or an internal member. And then your created for is going to drive whether they can see the case when they log in.
So the created for used to be, it's really technically our created by, okay? So, which we have in our system, whoever, we'll call it created for because that's what you see, but whoever the case is created for, whether internal or external, will always have access to this case, okay? So you're basically giving, if you put an external user in here, you're giving them permission to view the case, okay? And communicate with you through the communication log.
And then what other fields that,
For access,
yeah, that they can actually view a case? So if they're in the assigned to, notify user, or created for, so let's say if the client is in any of those areas, they can, when they log in, they'll see the case.
yes, but I would never make an external user and assign to
Right.
Yeah,
And the notified user is just for the email notifications, not for viewing rights.
right. The viewing rights come with the created for.
So you want to make sure if it is actually a case that you're working for a client, you want to make sure that they're in both the notified user and the created for. The notified user is going to ensure that they get the notes that you provide to them.
Does that work? I asked her if she could talk slower.
Talk slower. Oh.
You, girl.
So notified user is going to make sure that the client gets the email notice when you add a note to the communication log. That's the purpose. That's the only purpose.
But they can't.
Tell me why.
They cannot see it unless their name is in, if they
Corey.
log into ClientSpace, they cannot see the case unless they're in the created for.
So at Legacy, the gal who's pushing tons of backgrounds to me was complaining that she's not getting her emails, and her name is in notify user field of every single case.
Well, her contact may not have the right email in it.
That's one
Well,
thing that,
I did send you a ticket on another one, Corey Gusto.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is it, okay,
She, it's a
specific,
she,
I have a
but-
case on it, so I don't know exactly what's wrong with that particular user, but that's the only one I've heard of.
She said that she gets some of them.
is she internal or external?
Yeah, so,
So could it be maybe it's later just another
Never do it.
most likely that's what it is, we'll have to figure it out.
Well, and that, you talked to her about that, didn't you? And she's like, no, it's not in my junk mail. Well, I did hear about it. I did not hear that. I just heard, she told me I'm getting none. But then
Look at that.
she told you a different story.
All right, so the owner is going to get set by default. If you don't change it, it'll just get set to whoever the assigned to is. The created for defaults to the current user. Okay, so notify user defaults to the current user, and created for defaults to the current user. Okay, from an external user's perspective, a lot of these fields are locked down. They don't have control to change them. It just will default to them, and you guys have to change it if you wanted to, but you probably don't, because if they logged it, you want to notify them. So leave them and you want to give them access to it, or leave it as is. All right. You guys will create cases to do things internally amongst yourself. So these might feel like they have a different situation. So they're created for, could be an internal person, okay? If the person, you don't per se do it so much for security because you're already going to get access anyways because you're internal, but it's still that original, think of it the same way, where you're just an internal user, okay? It's just gonna default to the current user, and it's probably appropriate if you're an internal user, just to leave it as is. I don't think you have to change it a whole lot. Okay?
That's similar to our customer as well. So you want to make sure when you're doing an internal ticket, your class is internal only, and all your users are internal. So you're assigned to you. If Marisa needed me to do something, she would assign it to me. she would be the created for and the notify user. She's my client. Okay.
So if DP, for instance, like you said, they do internal, as long as they don't put a client contact in the notify user or created for, it will stay internal. But even if I accidentally type something in communication log, it'll still stay internal, or no?
Yeah, because they're not getting notifications and they're not.
Okay, so it's driven off those two boxes up there for them.
So it would be your communication log. It's still for the two parties, which is basically your assigned to and your created for. Those are the two parties that are talking back and forth essentially. The communication log is for them. So if it's truly internal and you're working on something for legacy and you're working something that Deborah has asked you to work on, Deborah's your client, you're the assigned to, the communication log is for you guys to talk back and forth. But you can use the internal if you're just communicating internally on a client case where the client is the created for.
I would, let me give you an idea here. I would only reserve communication logs if you're intending to talk to an external user. If y'all are working internally on it and dialogue, I wouldn't use the communication log. I would still always, if you're working internally, always use internal notes. I think it's the better option. Yeah, and that's something we, when we hire new people, we have to train them. They'll use the communication log. Oh, it's an internal case, no big deal. But if you just get in the habit of using internal notes, don't worry about something getting in there. So any internal communication, if you're hearing a conversation to someone internal, put it in internal notes. If you're hearing a conversation to someone external, use that communication log.
And that's because it's not
So the created for, if you don't put anything in created for, is it going to default?
It defaults to the current user.
Which is assigned to, not
No. Whoever is creating this case.
Okay.
We call it created for, but if we relabel that created by, which is what it was designed to be, that's essentially what it is. It's whoever is creating this case, created by this person.
And it will populate.
Yeah, it will. It populates to the current user. Yeah. So if Anna was creating this case, and she logged it herself, and just let everything default, she's going to be on the assigned to, she'll be the notified user, and she'll be the created for.
And the owner.
And yeah, the owner, and she'll be the owner, yes, because exactly, she's everywhere. She's doing all those roles, she's running all those.
But if anyone else, let's say Anna's supervisor wanted to see what cases Anna's working on, they couldn't because they're not in any of those fields.
They could because the internal staff can basically search on any cases.
Yeah.
So as Anna's
Cases
manager,
are
I
wide
can
open
search
for
for
internal.
cases assigned to Anna and see all the cases assigned to her. I'm not going to get the notifications on it. It's not going to be in my log of cases to work, but since I'm internal, I can search for any case.
You could go to the case, go to the more, and find cases that are assigned to someone else.
So you can search for it and view it. Can you, if you're not assigned to it, or an owner, or
I can see
whatever,
anything y'all are doing,
can
but
you
anybody
change
can see
stuff?
anybody's anything.
add stuff,
Yeah.
delete stuff, change stuff?
If you're internal, you have access to it, unless the case is secured. But if that case type is not secured, it's more internally everything.
There's an excellent audit trail.
Yeah.
Everything is documented.
Yeah.
I have somebody's going to go destroy you and start.
Yeah, if somebody's going to delete all your stuff out, they're going to know that I came in and deleted all your stuff.
How long do you have from the time you log in till you receive notifications? Because it seems like I get 3 or 4 notifications a day for one case that I've already updated, or that, I mean, or it's like you have a case, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I have, you told me this morning 5
Yeah.
times.
We're actually working on changing our notifications around a little bit. We're going to look at making them a little bit nicer looking, so they're prettier, easier to understand. The areas that have changed, we're looking to move to the top, so you don't scroll on the bottom to see it.
Yeah.
So little things like that we're working on, and we have the ability now with this system. Our hands were kind of tied before with our old infrastructure, so we have more options. So that stuff will be happening. As far as notifications, I agree with you. I have situations, there's going to be more control over notifications in finite detail. Do I want an email, or do I just want a pop-up? Or do I want to I don't want anything. I just want to go to my notification dashboard and look at it there when I'm ready. But as far as getting the notification generated for you, for myself, if I'm the creator of the case or creator of a task, why do you don't notify me? Because exactly, I need it. I know. So, but then there's the same set of people, not same, but different set of people say, no, notify me because I want it in my email so I can quickly get to it again in the future. I want a carbon copy. I want a copy of it. So there's just a strange balance that we have to try to accommodate. So we're looking at having more flexibility with that. So you can say, notify me of new case creation. Notify me when status are changing. Notify me, you know, when you have a little more control about when you want to be notified. So, but it's not there yet. So that brings up the thing with the disable case notification. If you're going in just to add an internal note, or you're making a change to the case that doesn't really warrant notifying anybody, click this box before you save it. Disable case notification.
We can't see you.
Oh, yeah.
We can't see you.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so check that box before you save it. That will disable notifications to be assigned to and the notify user. And behind this case, there's a notify user option as well that's hidden that you're not even aware of. Those people don't get notified either. Okay, subscribers will still get notified, even though you disabled case notification. Because if you're in a subscriber list, you're basically, from our perspective, I said I want to know when changes are done to this form. I don't care what field it is. I want to subscribe to changes. So you're going to still get notified, even though the disabled case notification is turned on. When you come back in, that box will be unchecked, ready to use again. So do your coworkers the favor if you don't want to send notifications. Try to minimize. You know, I get in the habit, majority of the cases I go into an update, so just quickly change the review date or change the notes or change that. I disable notifications because I don't want to bombard Amber with excess notifications that really don't mean anything to her. It was a change I made for myself internally. Okay. It's the same thing is true on a task. When you go add a task, if you add a comment and you don't really need to notify anybody of that, because you're just doing some self-documentation about what happened, make sure you uncheck the send. This is opposite. You want to uncheck the send notification option at the bottom. So when you save this task, anybody who's in the notification will not get it.
What's the difference between a site and apply?
Okay. Apply will save the form and close it. Okay. Apply will save the form and keep it open, so you can continue working on it. Okay. So keep that in mind. I have a request in to send notification to move it up here to the top. Okay. So it's easier to put it on or off before you do a save without having to scroll to the bottom. I think it'd be more convenient.
If you mark it private, will it always say private?
Yes, that stays on permanently. So if you're in the notification list or you're a trader, owner, assigned to trader, or that anyone in the notification will have access to private tabs.
Does that mean the rest of the internal users will not be able to see it?
Correct.
Who is it making it private from? The rest of the
Yeah, you have to be one of those. Okay. The client contact, this is designed if you're creating a case for the client. If they called you, let's say on the phone, and you're creating a case for the issue, choose them, okay? If they're not in the list, click add and add them to your contacts, okay? Get their information, add it on the spot, okay? And then when you come back, their name will be in here. The report, if you fill this in, notice the reported by will gray out, and it will fill in that person's name, phone number, and email address for you, okay? The reported by, if you were creating a case internally, for you guys to do internal things, there isn't a client contact possibly, because you've made an internal case for an internal process that you've got to do. So that reported by should probably be you or whoever the appropriate person is. But it's the person who's reporting the issue.
Can you say within that field?
Yes. If you blank out the client, if there's no client contact, that field is editable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you add a contact, does that tie back to the client profile?
Yes, it does. When you add a contact, you're adding it to the organization. Yep.
And the client contact and the reported by does not give you case view or case
It has
notification.
nothing to
Has
do with
nothing
permission
to do with it.
or notification. It's information only. So if the client creates their own case, you're going to see their information up here at the top too. But if you create it for them and you don't want to give them access to it, you put their information here still. You always fill this out. So you optionally add them as the created for so they get permission to see it. And put them in the notify users so they'll get notifications on it as well. Okay? The phone number and email will fill in automatically if it is on that contact. Okay? If you notice they're not filled in, it's a good idea to ask them and get this information from you and go update their contact record and get it cleaned up.
If you update here, will it update the record, or you have to actually
It does
go
not.
into?
It's a good point. If you manually type in their phone and email address, it will save to this case, but it does not backfill to the contact.
But if you add contact, it will, because that wasn't working
Yeah.
in class.
Yeah, you add the contact. It will fill in the phone number and email address. You may have to switch to someone else and then flip it back. I'm not 100% sure. You force a refresh, release of defaulting that data after you add
So
it.
if you find this is wrong, you should go change on the contact for that workspace, and that'll change it for them permanently going forward.
Yeah. Notice these fields are in yellow as I make changes to them. That's just a visual indicator to let you know that something has changed on this form from when you loaded it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Preferred communication method, how they want to be contacted. If there is an employee involved in this, related to this case, I do recommend you add or choose that employee. You should not have a need to add a new employee because your employees are coming in from HRP. You don't need to add new employees. Okay, they will be in the list. If they're inactive, then what you basically, I'm not seeing it on here, I might have to save it first. You should be able to search. You should be able to search from.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
So there'll be an option where you can search for employees. Because when their employee and employment record get inactivated, so they're not going to be in the drop-down list. You have to go do a special search to find the inactive employee and bring it in.
When would we be able to see the staff employees in this?
As soon as we get them imported. Hopefully sooner than later.
You don't want us in there.
It didn't work. So subject and the issue, just like an email, keep your subject brief. Don't try explaining the story in the subject. It's enough for when you're on the case and you're looking at the subject, you know enough to know what it's about, okay? And then you can elaborate all you want in the issue. These sections are expandable. I do want to show you. Are we okay on time? I know we're 5 over.
Yeah, we're over. We'll continue. Continue here. If anyone's able to stay, we are recording this, and we have another session at 3, and we'll have some time for questions immediately following it.
What is that case? The case that has maybe long-term communication loss? Is it 9? 3 minutes or?
Amber, we noticed this morning that the case number like bumped. And I could have showed you on that previous screen, but we've, like I've been working cases that are in the 5 and all of a sudden 1,500 coming in. Do you have any idea why that happened?
What, from like 500 something to 1,500?
Yeah.
She's now around 2,500. I put one in this morning that's 25 something.
Case?
Yeah. No,
Case
okay.
number.
For cases?
Yeah, and it was, you could see it on that previous screen.
Like, we're going to run out of numbers here pretty quick if
Oh,
we
no.
keep going like that.
Like, why would that happen?
Already, and our paths are up like it's.
But our,
392. How can we get 25?
Yeah, no, I'll have to see what, have you tried to query cases that were in?
we just noticed it. We barely
That
noticed it
range of,
before
like,
you walked
that
in the
zone.
room. So we didn't really have a chance to research any of it.
Cases are the same number she's looking at.
It may be, it's, all case numbers are, is the primary key of that record. It's controlled in the database. So, the database just handles it automatically. I don't know exactly why they didn't jump in it.
Yeah.
Unless the bunch of cases were somehow created.
I mean, that's like hundreds and hundreds of cases in like 3
Right.
days.
Still okay.
I want to make sure you guys
It was
were
just a,
aware of
it
these
was
buttons.
just a,
We'll look at it. We'll look at it here. Your communication log, you don't have to be, in Classic it wasn't quite as friendly. You don't have to be limited to what you see right here. Okay? If you click these little expand arrow icons, it will kind of widen that out. So you can scroll, well, you don't need to scroll anymore because it opened up the whole thing. So it gives you a better viewing area.
there you
Okay?
go.
If you need to add, this is different than in Classic. Click the plus sign, and you'll get your area here that you can add. So it's kind of nice because you don't have to have that pop-up dialog, and you're confined to it, and you're like, oh, I got to go look something up. So you can finish writing your notes. You don't have to do that anymore because you still have full access to everything else that you might need to go to, or scroll up and down in that case to look up something. You can go back and type in your communication log. So it is more friendly that way.
Is there an option to print it to a PDF if you wanted to see all of the whole case and all the notes and everything?
The case detail report right here, which is what was in Classic, is an active report. It's just an example report that came with ClientSpace. Some clients like it. Active reports are kind of going away. It's a thing of the past because now we have mail merge, we have merge options to PDFs and Word and Excel, plus ad hoc reports. So we have newer technology that a lot of clients are opting to use in lieu of this case detail. And you can try it. I think, Amber, you printed the one out, but it doesn't show the communication login. It's showing the internal.
So is that something that's going to be added on later on?
It probably won't.
No.
If you guys need a custom version of it, we can clone that and do some custom, make a custom active report for you. So that's something that's just kind of going away. I think in our template, we're just shutting all that stuff off and not even releasing ClientSpace with it. So. Okay. Anything?
Any questions?
What a external user. I'm just going to go into Classic real quick and assume an external user. That's an external person. So the Classic version, but I'm going to show you the next version. So when a client logs in, this is what they're going to see. There's no action center for them. They don't need modules across the top, and they basically have to insert
It doesn't, I don't think it looks like a screen, but you, is
But that,
that what it's supposed to?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's it. It's real basic. There's nothing. We're gonna grow it and do other things, but that's all there is right now. It's just access to cases, which is all they have access to in Classic too. There's nothing extra. But if they go click add, they're not going to see all the fields that you see internally. So they basically see the top portion of the case. Anything below that communication log is hidden, and they'll never see it. And you'll notice a lot of the fields are kind of read-only. So this is really, they can change the priority. But everything else is kind of read-only there. They're going to choose their name, hopefully. Okay.
We had it before where they weren't able to see the actual internal person that would be assigned to. Like they wouldn't see Anna's name. They just
Which field?
assigned
Oh, you don't want them to see that?
I think it's helpful to have that there, actually.
So would you want them to, they see it on their end, and then they'll. I think it's dangerous because we have a bad habit of signing a ticket 17 times.
And what if they don't know who that person is? I mean,
They
Yeah,
never know.
you don't want
So they
them
just see
to.
the owner, and that's probably sufficient enough. They
I don't
see the
know.
owner.
I mean, I think it would be, I see what you're saying, it's helpful, but I think it's changed too much and they don't need to know
Too much
all
information.
the insurance is the owner and not the assigned to. Theoretically, the owner shouldn't change more than once.
Right.
Sometimes it will. But if the auto assign didn't work exactly because maybe the client didn't pick the right case type or the nature of the case needed to be changed, the owner would be changed to the actual person that should be responsible for that kind of issue. And the assigned to may change because it's like your next action. So it could change once. So then what if we just showed the owner?
Yeah, because I could see the client saying, okay, I saw this sign to Anna, so, but then now I have Carly, and then I have CP. Who the heck is working this?
Well, that actually happened. That happened to me.
DP ever be an owner?
Right, but we can eliminate it.
Nobody wants to see that either.
Yeah,
Good.
they could be an owner on an internal case, but there wouldn't be for a client case.
That's how I got
But
to Laura.
Can the client click on the little
Because-
person icon and get their contact information, and then they can be calling me?
Yeah.
Because
I know Laura
she
does.
was creating a
Is that not
case,
good?
it got assigned
Well, I
to me,
don't
she
know.
called me up. It's like, hey, you got this case, tell me what to do.
Let me go ahead and
I was on the phone with her for 30 minutes, and it was fine, but it's because she could see who I was in the case.
The owner,
She has a
people
point.
already assigned to, and I'm logging into external test, so I was created for, I'm also the notified user.
I know that before we never had any of those names in.
Yeah, they're gonna get this information.
This is what they see.
Yes. this
And they
is
can
what-
click on any of the person icons and contact any of those people listed on there.
Yep.
And it has happened, that's what I'm saying.
And that's, I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, it's just that
Or if
they're,
this is just who the owner.
if they don't know who these people are, or, you know, maybe I'm working on something that I don't need to necessarily interact with the client, but they're gonna call me and I'm like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want them to.
Could be some
They don't-
miscommunication there, or,
So, block assigned to, not owner? That's it.
Yeah, what did they see when they went and requested it? Did they see any of that?
No names.
Didn't seem to cause problems. But then they just call and yell at the
But at the same time, I
HRT.
know that for me, specifically with Prism, it's helpful to me to say, okay, I see that Harold just picked this up, so I know who's working on it and who I can contact.
So let's leave the owner. Should we leave the owner? That's not gonna change. Back and forth.
I think that, yeah, I mean, because
Is there a way we can prohibit certain, even internal users from being labeled as an owner? Because the concern, I think, one of the concerns that just came up that was that our internal, which is our DP, the people that work for us overnight, I mentioned that just they don't interact with clients at all. And if they accidentally get put in as an owner,
You want this to be a drop-down list of internals only?
yeah, internal only, but DP is in there.
The DP
Our-
internal user?
Yes,
They're
our
in
night
there.
staff is in there as internal people, but we don't want them to be owned.
we don't want
They
This
can
is
be
a-
owned.
I think this is a user filtered, this is a user filtered by the role drop-down.
Mhm.
I think they can change the role associated with this drop-down to be REI employees only.
But they're under REI employees, so we would need to create a new role that mirrors REI employees so that it would be just for DP.
Oh, you only want DP?
To not be in there. So we have
Oh,
REI users already are the people that can be owners.
should we do REI no sales?
We already have that. We can do REI no DP
Yeah,
and have that be the people
have that be
can
the
be
people,
owners.
yeah. We want to change the
I'm gonna stop the recording.